At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Fergal.
And we're from Movie Smash.
Comic book movies are having a golden age right now with the MCU.
Movies based on comics aren't necessarily a new thing, but they're a big thing.
Join us every other Tuesday on Movie Smash.
We explore these movies and find some hidden gems.
Every other week, we revisit some of the best.
And some of the worst movies based on comics or graphic novels.
Was Green Lantern as bad as you remember?
Heck no!
Is Time Cop the most accurate time travel movie ever created?
Absolutely.
Was Mystery Men way ahead of its time?
Should they be revisited? Should they be forgotten?
Join us on Movie Smash and find out. Listen wherever you find your fine podcasts.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame. Racism is a scourge on this country and world that has existed for probably at least 10,000 years, maybe, or so. But then there was one particular form of racism that was called the, I think, unnatural racism. No, unnatural slavery is where they intentionally chose black people from a particular region of Africa to be slaves, whereas before, slavery was wherever you happen to find those people, you're slaves. But like, for some, this part, they're like, no, we only want black people, and then we're going to enslave them. And then we're going to, humiliate them and degrade them. And then we're going to make fun of them and we're going to mock them. And we're going to do minstrel shows where we're going to paint ourselves black. And we're going to play up stereotypes that we created, mind you. So the stereotypes are ours. And then we're putting on a face to then act out the stereotype that we ourselves created. And then get a laugh out of the people who came to our shows who also took part in the very creation of the thing that they were then laughing at. So then it's like a circular thing. It just goes like perpetual motion, if you will, like perpetual motion. Like they say perpetual motion doesn't exist. It actually really does. It's a government. It's a secret they don't want you to know about. But like, so racism is bad. In Carta.
Now the show's half over, and I'm just joking.
That's my longest name I think I've had.
I'm like 99.9% sure that is the longest name you've had. Yes. Yeah. Do you pay by the letter still?
This time I just stole them. No.
Oh, I thought maybe they started giving you coupons or something,
Not really. Not anymore. They're done with me. They're done they're done couponing me. I'm couponed out, if you will. It's so interestingly enough, so there's a religion called the Baha'i Faith that Mike knows a lot about. It says that the biggest problem of America was racism. People think, I thought racism was over. We got over that problem, right? There's bigger, but it's climate change. There's all these other problems. Racism surely is a backseat problem, right? I mean, not back in the bus problem, if you will. And no, actually, it's very much front of the bus and back of the bus, matter of fact. And apparently, the movie we're about to talk about displays all of those very things, but in a very, quote, humorous manner, if you like that kind of I do not. I don't think you do either, personally.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure that racism is still alive and well and wearing a MAGA hat. Yep. Oh, Lordy. So today on the show, oh, boy.
How are we going to get through? We got to get through this somehow.
Yes. We are covering film?
Moving pictures.
There's people, there's cameras, there's action, I guess it's a movie. kind of lighting. There's it's a movie that came out in 2019 with the name Loqueesha. Yes, Loqueesha. This is a film that, according to the Internet Movie Database, here's the synopsis. Faced with a financial crisis, Joe, a divorced, quick-witted bartender, applies for a job at a failing radio station, ... as a black female disc jockey.
Yep.
Not really a disc jockey, but yeah.
Not really, no.
Yeah, this is a movie that was co-written by Jeremy Seville. I don't think he's any relation to the fictional character David Seville from the Chipmunks, but and a man named Patrick Doran. And this was directed by Jeremy Seville. This film also stars Jeremy Seville, as well as Susan Diol, who people might know from Quantum Leap. She's probably the biggest name in the whole movie, as Cindy. We've got Sean Purnell, as Joe's mom. L.B. Selznick as George. Got Tiara Parker as Rachel. Mara Hall as Renee. We have Jeremy Seville, as I said, as Joe. Michael Madison as Ken. We have the order of the cast here is kind of weird. So let me go to Wikipedia where it might be easier. Okay, yeah. Dwayne Perkins as Mason, Savannah Williams as Crystal, Thaddeus Eck as Jason, Michael Madison as Ken, Richard Milanese as Bob, Herb Mendelsohn as Fred, Brad Benarek as Don, Jay Costello as Sean, Alvarez Ricardez as Richard. Okay, so. Yeah, this movie, which is free on Tubi, came out in 2019. As I said, just pointing that out.
Yep.
What are your initial thoughts here after watching this, Sesame?
Oh boy! So a movie called Soul Man came out in 1986. We have reviewed that as well, where a student who graduated high school or regular college, still that's not clear what that was.
Yeah.
And
listen to our episode for more details on that. Yeah.
And so he wanted to go to Harvard. His dad said, "No, I'm not. You're gonna have to pay your own way. I'm done giving you money, etc." And then he's looking for scholarships. Right? He finds a thing for minorities. Says, "Hey, if you're black, you could go for potentially get the scholarship if you live in LA." So he goes, "Okay, I'm gonna take tanning pills that my friend is researching conveniently, and I'm going to make myself, quote, look black," which didn't really look like black, but whatever. And then he goes to Harvard as a black man or black young man. And we're thinking, oh my God, this is terrible, right? This is horrible. Who would do such a thing? However, big point here, at no point during the movie did he act in a way that he thought a black person should act. He was himself who looked like a black man. This movie, on the other hand, is a white man who looks white, does not put on black makeup, which I guess that's a plus, if you will. I mean, that's the only redeeming factor I guess we have so far. But he puts on the most stereotypical independent black female, voice or whatever for the whole fucking movie. Like an hour and 15 minutes of this. Well, yeah, again, 2019.
When he's in character, that is. Yeah.
Well, yeah, when he's in character, well, even when he's not in characters, we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
And sometimes. And so... Soul Man, 1986, offensive, yes. Character acts like he's himself. He just looks black. Offensive. 2019, 33 years later, white man who looks white is totally being racist for like an hour and 15 minutes straight. 2019.
Minstrelsy without the makeup. So, this guy, Jeremy Seville, by the way, who wrote and directed this, also made a movie called The Test, is his other feature film that he directed. Which the short summary is a guy puts his unwitting bride-to-be through a series of increasingly bizarre stress tests to see if she's worthy of marriage.
Okay.
Sounds almost as problematic as this movie. That's all I'm going to say.
It was, dude. What the hell, man? It's like the dude from Fox News, what's this, Jesse Waters or whatever his name is?
Yeah.
He would like deflate the tires out of women's cars and then show up and like try to act like he's their savior.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, okay. So, what goes down in this movie here, Sesame?
My God. So he's a bartender, and apparently he's like super smart, I guess, because he owns a thesaurus and he can speak well, I guess. So that automatically makes him wise, because that's what we think.
Or the
He
writer.
could throw
The writer owns one, and he doesn't know how to write real dialogue, so he uses a thesaurus to create the faux Dawson's Creek sort of dialogue in this movie.
Must have watched a lot of Dawson's Creek, actually, because that's what it reminds me of now. But at least that was done kind of right.
Dawson's Creek had better storylines and wasn't as racist.
Right, yeah, not as racist. Yes, you got to put the as in there.
I don't think it really was at all, but I'm sure there may have been some tropes in that show that were. But I mean, it's a show from almost 30 years ago. So yeah,
that's really. Yeah. Oh God. And so he's supposedly gives people great advice, which I don't really think, I don't understand how that was considered like great advice, but whatever, for the movie's purposes.
He literally tells everybody to just be themselves.
Yeah, that's it. That's like all variation of that. Like
that's basically it. And creates straw man arguments for things to tell people advice. That's basically his advice thing. He's basically okay. So he's like basically he's like Jesse Waters giving advice.
Yeah.
Basically, yep. And so he gives advice to like some random dude at the bar, and they act like he just like it was Jesus come on from high, telling great advice to humanity or something. It's just like what the hell. Yep. And so then like this attractive African American female comes in named Rachel, and she's like complaining about things, and so she comes into the bar somehow through curtains when everybody else is coming through a door. I didn't really understand that.
That was
That was the first thing that threw me off. But yeah. Anyway, so what happens there?
She's just complaining about men, particularly her boyfriend, who's I guess has been cheating on her, and then she always gives him another chance and doing it. So he proceeds to call her a fucking idiot and insults her, and somehow that's good advice. Again, this is the movie we're watching, and then she comes back and it's like, oh my God, this advice was great. I really broke up with him this time or whatever.
I will point out, during that first 5 minutes of the movie, during which he gives this advice, he also does a racist Indian accent.
Yes, for like 30 seconds.
For like 30 seconds, doing this like little play within his head about Gandhi and his wife.
About fasting too much, and he's not eating her cook. And he goes on, actually, it's probably more like a minute, really.
It's like we're not even 5 minutes in the movie, and we already have racism.
So we have Indian voice, stereotypical Indian voice. Yeah. And then we're just getting started. I mean, this is like the appetizer, like it's not even we're the bread. We're at the bread portion. We're not even at the appetizer portion yet. We're at the breaded water. Okay.
And then he goes then literally 5.5 minutes into the movie, he's visiting his ex-wife to pick up his kid. And she's like telling him about this gifted school that the kid got into, and it's going to cost what was it, like $13,000 a semester or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and so. But the first thing he says, she says something about having news, and then literally, like I clocked it. It was like 5.5 minutes into the movie. There's a trans joke.
Oh right, yeah.
So we have racism and trans less than 6 minutes. Transphobia less than 6 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, and plus we have the credits and stuff like that. He's like, oh, you're getting a sex change. I'm like, this is like 1990s humor, like Friends shit. Like he hasn't like progressed beyond that. Like I mean, like Friends
humor or Lady Ballers humor. It's like
yeah. And my question though with that is, why is it his responsibility to come up with $13,000 so that his son can go to a gifted school? It's like, it's not a requirement by law that he has to do.
And on top, why does he have to come up with all of it? Not that I'm trying to, put all the burden on the poorly written woman,
right?
Who he writes as like a nagging woman. Like every character in the movie is like a nagging sort of woman. He doesn't know how to write women at all.
And
it's but why can't she contribute to the cost? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. It's like she knows that he's a bartender, which is probably not. I mean, bartenders can make a lot of money, but not the bar he works at. I mean, it's a very quiet bar. There's not much, going on there. And so then like Rachel is the black woman who was there that he apparently gave sage wisdom to that changed her life. And she comes not through the curtains this time. Now she comes through the door for some reason. I don't know. And then maybe I'm giving them too much credit for this. Maybe they thought they were being cute and like doing like a symbolic thing, like she's going through the curtains because it's like theater. And what he does later on, like theater. I mean, I might be giving him way too much credit for that, but like it probably just was a mistake, and they didn't.
Yeah, it's unintentional symbolism. So she comes and she's like, "Hey, your wisdom's great," and she's like, "I found this flyer." And, they're looking for like a radio host, at this radio station or whatever. And you can even read it as she gives it to him. It's right in the middle, and it says like minorities are. Welcome to apply or something like that. And the little piece of paper with this like ad that she saw, I don't know if she printed it out and cut it out herself, but it's like the size of a fortune cookie, fortune. It's like, what the hell?
So it's like, if she did cut it off, then she would have read that part. Like, oh, they're looking for minorities. Joe is definitely not a minority. So, but I'm gonna give it to him anyway to like get his hopes up for nothing. I guess I don't know. And then. So
Joe is basically Jesse Waters and Norm Macdonald mixed together.
Yeah. Yes. But like not in a good way whatsoever.
Like take all the bad qualities of both of them together. Not that.
And then you got.
But I'm just saying, it's a guy that's trying to be Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, it's a guy who's trying to be like Norm. He's trying to do the quick-witted, sarcasm. That's what I bet you that's exactly who he was trying to channel this entire time. Mm-hmm. Now that I think about it, that's got to be what he was trying to be, which is ironic because the whole point of the movie is don't try to be someone else, be yourself. But he's trying to channel Norm. But even so, it gets even worse. So he's trying to channel Norm Macdonald. But then from there, channel a fake black woman character he's created. So now we got like 3 types of channeling going on, which is already gotten really super confusing. So she gets in this piece of paper that she must have cut out herself, I guess. I don't know. And then he's like, oh, maybe I'll do it. And so she lets her go to her house. And they kind of do like a test run. And, he's acting kind of nervous and shit because he doesn't really know how to talk when he's not actually being recorded. And so she helps him through it. Like, oh, pretend that, you're talking to a caller or whatever, or I'm the caller or whatever. So, he beats himself and he's like super like, he's like Loqueesha. I think at one point he even said Loqueesha. No, never mind. Later on, he calls himself Loqueesha at one point. And then he submits the audio file, and then they reject him because he's not a minority. And so we got like affirmative action. The white man's being neglected for the undeserving minorities, type of implication within the movie, kind of. And then he's watching this show. And it's like your stupid, like the Maury Povich type show, and 2 black women are arguing with each other. He's like, "That's she needs her show." What's that?
Which has the worst green screen I've ever seen in my life.
I know it's
and in the movie too, but it's like they couldn't even create like a fake set. They just did it on green screen and tried to make it look like the Jerry Springer show or something. It's just so stupid.
Yeah, it like he's like, see, that's. She should have her own show. That's what people want. They don't want some white guy. And he's like, if I was a black woman, I definitely could have done that show. And it's like, like that's, oh my God, I just came up with this great idea. No. There's no, if the thought in your mind comes saying, well, sorry, my grammar was fucked up. If the thought comes in your mind of, hey, why don't I pretend to be a black woman so I can get a job? Like, just immediately delete that thought from your mind. Just be like, oh, that was weird. I had that thought. Maybe I'll just not stop thinking about that.
I mean, when I was a little kid, I thought maybe when I grow up, I can be a transformer. But
not.
Yeah,
I'm
not Optimus Prime. You start to realize things that there are certain things you can't be. I mean. You could be I could be a trans woman if I decided I was trans, but I'm not. I'm just saying, but I can't be a transformer. I can't be a black woman. I can't be an Indian guy. But this guy just doesn't see this.
No, he thinks he can So he's like, I don't know, man. Like, oh Jesus Christ. So like he submits the. Oh my god, I feel like disgusting even talking about it. So like he makes up this fake thing where he records both. Okay, I'm getting all right. So the point I want to make though is that he sounds the exact same way as he's talking as himself, then as Loqueesha. You could obviously tell it's the same person
Yeah.
who's saying these words. And so he records himself as the caller and as Loqueesha, and he's editing it in this quote unquote smartphone, which they made a big thing about, like, oh, it's the first time he's had a smartphone and he doesn't understand scams, and so he's like, oh, I got 100.
There's really bad ADR too when he says smartphone. You can tell that he originally said iPhone, and they recorded over it with smartphone.
That's hilarious. Probably because they couldn't say iPhone.
But the thing is, later on in the movie, somebody does say iPhone, so it's just whatever.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, so it's like, it's so stupid. So like he sends them the thing and they're like, oh my god, this is so great. But that reminds me too. So I know I'm jumping all over, but like, so they apparently they live in a world that's separate from our world, that doesn't have the same culture and history that we do, because like the guy who's trying to like shake things up, he's like, I guess the son of like the radio station owner or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, Dad, radio's the past, we need to get into the future or whatever. People need something new. They need something fresh, which is a talk show radio host, which has never been done before. Like, what?
Which is like literally like the first thing they ever did with radio, I think. And on top of that, like advice shows, this is nothing new. Even advice shows with African American women isn't a new thing in 2019.
So again, the way he was acting, like this was like some revelation to him. I'm like, dude, what century are you living in? Like, that's not a new thing.
And I know she wasn't African American, but there was that what's her name? That woman who did the books, like the proper care and feeding of a husband or whatever the hell that was, or of a man or whatever. Doctor something or other, Dr. Laura or something. She or something like that. I don't know, or I don't know what her name was, but she was a piece of shit. She used to give this no nonsense type of advice, and she still does to this day. But she's totally gone like completely like alt-right crazy. So yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So they want her, and then of course he can't be figured out, so he's got to make all these stipulations, like, oh well, no one can see me. Oh yeah, I have a rare case of xenophobia.
I think that's the child. That's the thing. It's like, I don't know if that was supposed to be a joke, because I think he meant agoraphobia.
But the thing is, though, if he's so quick-witted and he knows all these fancy words, how would he get that wrong? You know what I mean?
But
like, unless he's trying to say it, the black woman. Yeah.
Xenophobia makes no sense in this situation, because why would a black woman be xenophobic towards somebody that's not an immigrant? And that it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Because xenophobia can be racism. It's just like xenophobia is more of like an all-purpose prejudice, isn't it, or is it not?
No, it's xenophobia is a fear of strangers or foreigners.
Okay, yeah. So, strangers, I guess, but still,
a strong antipathy or aversion to strangers or foreigners, a fear of foreigners or strangers. That's some of the definitions here. Yeah, it's like basically being it pretty much almost applies only to like foreigners. So.
Yeah. You know what he's probably trying to do? I just thought about now, which makes it even worse. He was probably talking as, quote, his black woman character who doesn't know these fancy words like he does, because you know how they are. They're not smart as us whites. So he's trying to like make her seem
2 or 3 times in the movie too, which is like,
yeah, I know. And so that's the reason why she can't come into the studio, but then they make her anyway. So she's like, okay, I'm already getting fucked up here. So he is like, okay, but nobody can see me going in and going out. I have to have my own sound engineer. And so he convinces this guy who goes to his bar to basically be like his partner in crime here. At no point do any of these characters ever find like offensive that he's like pretending to be a black woman that hated.
And he convinces this guy for like next to nothing to be his engineer. And he says, I'll give you free drinks. But then he stops working at the bar. So I don't understand.
Right. So it's like, wait a minute, how are you going to get free drinks for life? You ass piece of shit. And so he's like, I'll give you $200 a week. Really? A week? 2019?
Yeah.
Okay. And he was only making $500 a week.
Yeah. And the show was on from 11 to 2. So it's like 3 hours, I guess 3 hours. I don't know, 3 hours times, like, we'll say 5 days a week. I don't know.
Still, a radio show host should be making more than minimum wage or even less than minimum. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just stupid. Well, I mean, they were like a family radio station, so I guess they couldn't pay him as much, but Jesus Christ. And then so... Yeah, they start this whole charade where he's in the studio and he's pretending to be this Loqueesha, and everybody loves her because of her no nonsense, but also tough love and caring, persona who solves everybody's problems with like milquetoast advice that you've heard from like a million other talk show radio hosts, but somehow it's different because it's Loqueesha, I guess.
I did the math, so the engineer would be getting like $13 an hour. So I guess
that's ridiculous.
But I guess I don't know. It's still over minimum wage.
Yeah, but I don't know.
But I don't know. And they're in Detroit, so
yeah,
you don't need
that's why I forgot what place.
Right. So yeah, it takes place in Detroit, which has palm trees, and
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's obviously shot in L.A., but whatever.
Why did they even attempt to like remove the palm trees or not shoot those scenes? Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, there's only a couple shots, but it's still enough to, I see it all the time, even in like, well-made, TV shows and movies. Sometimes like you'll see that where they shoot something that's supposed to be in like Ohio or New York or something, and you get palm trees. But still, my thing is I think they placed it in Detroit for certain reasons.
Yeah.
Because of the whole black lady thing, and Detroit being known for a community that's got a lot of black people in it, and they decided, hey, what's the most stereotypical black city in the country? Let's just choose that as where this takes place for reasons.
Yeah, for reasons. They could have done Chicago, they could have done New York, but you know what? No, we're gonna go straight. We're gonna go straight for the jugular here and go with Detroit.
Or if you're filming in Los Angeles, make it Los Angeles.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, whatever. They're stupid. Whoever came up with this, it was needless, like kneecapping yourself, whatever. And then he's like, "Oh, we have palm trees. Yeah, we'll not say it's in L.A. where we can just get away with that. We'll say no, it's Detroit or what's the word in the state of Maine actually? And there's palm trees there. Iceland, Greenland. Why not? I mean, Trump's gonna buy Greenland, right? So we could just put palm trees in Greenland, see if they grow. I don't know.
It's just like if you're gonna have it in a place with palm trees, make it Los Angeles. But if you don't want to make it Los Angeles, say you're in like Orlando or something. Don't. Just somewhere that actually has palm trees. But
yeah, I mean, he's a piece of shit, and I know this is so stupid, and the show becomes super successful, so they give him a daytime slot instead of nighttime. Now it's really popping off, and he's making all kinds of money. He's given, literally envelopes of money to his ex-wife in a diner, which that's not suspicious at all.
And during this thing, they realize that they're going to need somebody to be him.
Yeah, as Loqueesha.
Yeah, because obviously he can't. They luckily didn't go to the point of I guess going Soul Man meets just one of the guys or something.
I was so worried about that. I was like, please do not go that far. I was really worried. Oh my god!
Please don't put him in blackface and a dress.
I was so scared. I was like, please don't pull a Ted Danson here. Like,
at least Ted Danson learned from that situation. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he shouldn't have done it in the first place. I don't think there's some things that you shouldn't have to learn from.
No, I know, but other than that, Ted Danson seems like a good guy. So I'm like, okay, but still,
you're right. Go ahead. What you're talking about the stand looking for.
So they end up like having these auditions, and they have different people auditioning. One of which is a guy in a dress with a beard.
Right. So another trans thing, and
they're making fun of that. It's like whatever. I mean, if this guy with a beard wants to wear a dress, more power to him. But the way they're doing it is they're playing it for jokes, and that's just. Yeah.
And he's got a lower voice than Joe. Get it?
Yeah.
Type of bullshit. Then you got a sex thing where a woman's like, "I'll blow you guys." So now we got the black woman as a seductress who's super into sex. So we got that stereotype going on. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, because stereotype of women that's been around since the beginning of cinema is that they're either the mammy character, like the motherly, woman that you would never picture yourself having sex with, or the sexy woman who is, a whore, basically. So that's the stereotypical Hollywood thing that sadly I think still happens sometimes, but was like very prevalent up until like the 60s. So it's like,
Yep.
Ah, boy. Yeah, so we got that going on. But anyways, this woman comes in who says like her whole life is Loqueesha. Like she watches she listens to the show all the time on her iPhone.
That's right. She says iPhone. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's okay to say iPhone. So there's this theory about a film. I don't know. I probably talked about this before on the show or to you, Sesame, at one time, that there is actually a rule in film that a villain can never have an iPhone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like if you're watching a movie and you're trying to, like, if it's one of those like whodunit things and somebody has an iPhone, they're definitely not the killer or whatever. So, yeah.
That's so, yeah.
Because Apple will not allow a villain to have an iPhone.
Oh my God. They're so,
yeah. I guess it makes sense because, I mean, the thing is, it's like, they don't want their product to be associated with that. And I mean, it makes sense for legal reasons. I understand that because that's why, most products, like, some are fine with whatever, you want to do, but some products, like, like if you can't, like Coca-Cola could sue you if you don't have permission to use Coca-Cola products in your movie, especially if you like have like, a bunch of gangsters drinking Coca-Cola or something, or, a child molester or something, you know what I mean? You don't want it's like because you don't want to have that picture of like a famous villain from a movie, holding up an iPhone or a Coke, you just don't want that. Yeah,
so. Yeah, that's true. Whereas you got Subway just does not give a shit as long as you put them in their show or movie. They don't care how it's presented.
Well, they're like, here because they had a spokesperson who was a villain, so it's
exactly for like 20 years. Yeah.
So,
oh my God.
Yeah, but my thing with it is that so we specifically, but later on they try to make this character the villain. So that's kind of like, okay, I wonder why Apple hasn't sued them. But still, also, are they implying that she's not the villain, or are they playing that she is? Because they don't want Joe, the main character, to have an iPhone because he has to specifically say it's a smartphone. So
it's very confusing. I don't know if they even knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
and so tell me then about the woman that they chose and whether or not she is convincing that she is Loqueesha.
So basically, I mean, she has kind of the speech pattern down, but her voice is like 5 octaves higher and doesn't really sound like Joe. So it's like.
So why would they think that made any sense? They could have picked, I mean, they couldn't find anyone else who has a lower voice than hers that could at least somewhat sound, like Joe, because
why did they have her lower her voice?
Right. I mean, that's possible too. And I mean, you could play it off like, oh, maybe Loqueesha had a cold, but it's like for the whole time. Like, and then suddenly when they show her in person, her voice is higher. Nobody was suspicious at all about.
So she's basically hired to be on posters and billboards and stuff, and be the like in person, body of Loqueesha. Like if there's like a store opening or something like that, she's there. So yeah. And she goes to the studio, so they think she's going in there to not record, but to do the show live. And it's what they basically just pay her $15 to sit there. So here's the thing: I'm wondering if the engineer got a raise at some point, because she's just getting paid $15 to sit there while he's producing the show and getting like $13.30 an hour. So both of which are, I think, underpaid, but still.
I mean, yeah, $15 for 3 hours. That's like what? Like not even. It's like $5 an hour. That's. I mean, that's yeah. That's,
well, no,
okay.
She got $15 an hour.
Oh, an hour. Okay, I got you. All right.
So what I'm saying is that she's making more than the producer.
Yeah.
Just to sit there.
Man.
So.
Well, she's the star. ostensibly. And I don't know, man. Like this movie is just like made me feel bad almost to watch. Like like bad about life. It's like it's almost like like we watched Tooth Fairy 2 or the other Larry King. But what was the other one? Part 2 that we saw. It was
Jingle All the Way too.
Go all the way. Like it's feel bad almost. Yeah.
Yeah, but those movies those movies at least weren't racist per se. So it's like,
oh, not really. No, which is weird because you got Larry the Cable Guy's star, but whatever. And then Get Her Done. Oh god.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Those are just, like I don't know what you want to call it, like when you're making fun of Southern people when you're really technically not a Southern person. That
you're from Nebraska and you grew up middle class and you didn't even used to wear overalls and jeans. In fact, some of your earliest comedy routines, you're wearing a fucking suit.
And you don't even talk like that normal. So yeah. So So basically, we have this going on, and things are getting bigger and bigger for Loqueesha's show, and then we end up having a very unethical part of the movie where Rachel calls into the show and asks for advice from Loqueesha about Joe because she's attracted to him, and she finally broke up with her boyfriend for real this time, and and he basically gives her advice, leading Rachel to him, and then he's like waiting for her to call, and he's got this look on his face like a kid at Christmas, like he knows she's gonna call.
I know, it's like, dude, that's like devious, man. Like he's literally sitting on the couch with the phone, like waiting for, like, I'm like, dude. He's like, yeah.
Like, I know she's gonna call. It's like,
just so fucking weird, man.
And then so they go on a date. Like she invites, she basically says, I want you to come over and we'll have some drinks at my place, sort of thing. And he gets over there and he's like starting to have so now they're making now it starts to the point where they're making fun of mental illness.
Yep. So now we got So now we got that going on. We have racism, multiple types.
We have racism,
trans,
overall misogyny. Oh boy! And now
can you explain why you're making fun of mental? Like, what is the catalyst for this?
So what ends up happening is he's like they're making out with Rachel, and he starts like breaking into he's got a dissociative identity disorder sort of thing where he's being both himself and Loqueesha, like mid sentence. It's like, oh my god, and and he's like, and then he says to her, I have a black woman inside me.
Oh my god.
And she's like, so are you gay or something like that? And it's just like, now we got homophobia too.
But it doesn't make any sense though. How would that be gay? Like,
no, it wouldn't.
It doesn't make any sense.
And throughout the rest of the movie, people keep asking him some of that stuff, at different times in the movie, and it's like he keeps really defending the fact, like really misogynistically defending, how could you ever think I'm gay, sort of thing. It's like, I mean, I'm a heterosexual male myself. I've had people ask me if I'm gay because of some of the things I like and the way I believe and the fact that I actually care about people.
It's
which is kind of sad that you can't be considered a man if you care about humanity. So it's like,
or you're not. I mean, it's like if you don't subsist,
you can't be considered a cis straight man if you care about humanity. It's like, but so I've had that, but I've never ever been offended by somebody thinking I'm gay, even the time a guy tried to kiss me. So it's like
you're like, how dare you call me gay? Exactly. Like, I am not, fuck you.
I was in theater for years, and I had a guy come on to me and try to kiss me, and I was just like, I'm flattered, dude, but I'm not interested. So, done the same thing if it was a girl I didn't like that was trying to come on to me, sort of thing. But it's like, whatever, but he's like so offended by that almost. So that's like weird. And so he kind of like runs out of there, and we're just like, what's going on there with Rachel now? And then she disappears for like over a half hour of the movie.
And he's driving his car, and he's like talking to himself as Loqueesha. Having full-blown argument with himself. Yeah.
And then we have really bad special effects where you see see a cop pull up behind him, and you see the lights in the rearview mirror, but they're like pasted on there really badly. Like there was no diffusion over it to make it look like they were coming out of the mirror, as opposed to it just was so bad. It was like, I don't know, it was like Birdemic quality special effects. Yeah. And so the cop pulls him over, and you see palm trees in the background. Yeah. In Detroit. Detroit, famous for their, Detroit, there's a lot of things, Detroit's famous for their Detroit style pizza, the, Coney dogs, the Pistons and the Red Wings and the Tigers and the Lions and palm trees.
Yeah.
Yep.
And palm trees. Yep. Oh my God.
Love it. I love it in December when there's like all that snow on the ground on top of the palm trees. It's so beautiful.
It is. It's so beautiful. It's so. He gets pulled over, and he's like arguing with himself as Loqueesha, and even the cop's like, "Hey, maybe you should stop listening to her."
Like, you're getting too obsessed, dude.
I know. He's like looking out for the poor guy.
So he gets away with it, I guess, because he's a white male. And
yeah, exactly.
And the cop, by the way, the cop is black.
The black cop. Yeah.
I want to point out something here before we get too much further into the plot. He surrounds his character with all these black actors, who basically are justifying his racism. I mean, I know they probably just wanted a payday, and maybe some of them don't see it as offensive or anything, but even just writing the characters as black is somehow justifying that the racism is okay. It's to the audience, it's like I don't
his friend thinks it's funny and shit, and it's but it's,
and Renee's fine with it and going along with it for the paycheck and stuff, and it's just like it's also making you making it out to be that she's greedy in a way and stuff. It's just like they don't paint any of the thing is, they don't really paint any of the black characters as per se good people either,
right?
It's like it's just weird.
Rachel, she was like,
well, she was for most of the movie, but I'll tell you why I think she's not. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
So what else happens? Yeah.
So then he's starting to have like this crisis of conflict. He goes to his mom, and his mom tells him, you should probably you can get some advice from this lady on the radio, Loqueesha. And so he takes his mom's advice, and he does a call on the show where he is talking to Loqueesha as himself, and then as Loqueesha giving the advice to himself.
Yep. And nobody suspicious that he sounds just like her.
Yeah, there's no difference in the sound except for like the pattern of the voice from being like, having some kind of like, stereotypical black patter to the voice and then not. So it's like, and so he basically gives all this advice and everything. And then after that is one of the worst scenes in a movie I have ever seen in my life. The producer says, "You just talked yourself off of a ledge. Do you think you can do it for real this time?"
Right.
And this woman calls in, and she's about to jump off of a bridge, that she's badly green screened onto, and so badly green screened onto it. And the bridge isn't that high either, by the way. But that's what
I noticed. I'm like, wait, you're gonna jump like 12 feet into water.
Into water, you might hurt yourself. That's about it. You're probably not gonna die.
No.
But anyways, he basically just gives the worst advice ever. He's like, do it. Basically.
Quit wasting my time. Do it. What's reverse psychology, Mike? Come on. You just don't know the wisdom of fake Loqueesha.
Possibly the worst thing you could ever tell to a suicidal person.
No, man, you just don't understand the weaving, the cathedral mind of Loqueesha here. Like,
no, because like I've personally had people I will not mention by name in my life, people that I'm really close to, when I was going through a major depression in my life, that just basically told me to get over it.
Jeez, yeah, just go ahead and
just stop it.
That's how it works, man.
That's almost as bad, but nowhere near as bad, I guess you should say, in other ways, of telling someone to just go through with it if they want to jump off of a bridge.
Because what if she did that right as soon as Loqueesha said that, before she could get into her real reason for saying it? Like, oh, oh shit, I was gonna make a really good point there. Oh well.
Yeah, because
bad stuff.
I took I took a class in high school where I was so I did this thing called peer listening where I was not allowed to give advice, and they specifically said if anybody comes to you that is suicidal, you have to report it to the guidance counselor.
Yeah.
And get them real help and everything, and says whatever you do not give them any advice, let alone this kind of advice which would tell you to fucking do it. I don't it's like it's the worst thing ever. And they said because you could tell somebody that's suicidal, give them advice, and then they may take it the wrong way and then actually kill themselves, and then you're gonna feel responsible, and then that'll cause another possible suicide or mess up somebody else's life, and let alone the lives of all the people that are connected to that person that killed themselves. And it's just it's very sad. And the way this guy's doing this, it's not right. And then he's just basically trying to convince her that she has this beautiful thing called life to live for, and that has she ever wanted to do something, like have you ever been to Paris, and then convinces her to go to Paris. And on top of that, So he's like asking her if she's ever been to Paris and trying to convince her that, instead of dying, she needs to go to Paris. What if she can't afford it?
That's what I'm saying. Not everyone can afford to go to Paris, dude. Especially if you live in Detroit, because it's not exactly the most richest country city in the country. Oh yeah, man. I live in Detroit, and I'm about to jump off a 12-foot bridge, but I can totally afford to go to Paris. Okay, dude.
And he literally says that you'd make a better splat if you jumped off the Eiffel Tower than a bridge in Detroit.
Right. So it's so you're still encouraging her to kill herself, but only after she goes to a cool city, makes love to a Frenchman, then kills herself. It's wait, what?
And he doesn't know anything about this woman. Maybe she's just going to repel all Frenchmen. None of them are attracted to her. It's still
she didn't really do it. It's oh my god!
I cringed during that whole scene. I was like, I hate this. I hate this movie. That's been a long time since we've watched something that I viscerally hated, and this movie is one. So
it is. Yeah.
So anyways, that happened, and that it's kind of sad that in a very racist movie, this scene is the worst scene in the movie. But.
Yeah, exactly. That's how bad it was. It's
a scene that doesn't really deal with racism is the worst scene in a racist movie. So, it's
oh god,
oh boy. So
she's woman. It's always a woman character as well.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And he doesn't know how to write women at all. Too. That's including this woman who's about to jump. It's funny because right after I watched the movie, I watched an episode of the TV show Without a Trace, and there was a teenager in the past that the woman they were looking for was feeling guilty about a situation where a girl she knew accidentally jumped off of a bridge.
Wow.
And I was just like, what the hell is up with this today? Anyway, so so after that he starts to have regrets about this, but Renee basically becomes this conniving. He gets an email from Oprah.
Oh yeah, that's right. An email from Oprah. Not an actual letter. I'm just gonna shoot an email.
Because Oprah just sits around and emails people.
Yeah. But that's it's about an hour a day. She just hey, this is my email time, so I just go and email people for an hour a day. Yeah,
and it's from the richest person in media ever.
Yeah.
She doesn't have assistants or other people that do that for her. Yeah.
Don't they have an episode of her Behind the Bastards coming up, or did I dream that?
Oh, they by the time this comes out, probably all the episodes will be out. They've already had 2 when we're recording, and I've listened to both of them. Yeah, it's interesting.
Makes me sad to think about that.
Well, the main thing is they've been the first 2 episodes are very sympathetic towards her growing up.
Okay.
She had a interesting, not great childhood, but the main thing is she brought the world Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil for 2 things.
Oh,
so
that's right. Yeah.
So
and The Secret, that fucking terrible book, The Secret.
Yeah.
Or the movie and the book. Which is
And then
basically just a bunch of new age bullshit.
And then that one cult leader, was it like John of God or something like that? I don't remember his name, but he was like a cult leader that she gave a platform to on her show. Yeah,
I know. She's kind of like the Joe Rogan, though, of like where it's like whoever she talked to, she agreed with that person, and then someone else comes on and she agreed with. Like that one time she interviewed Rainn Wilson, and she's like, "Oh, the Baha'i faith sounds really interesting," and then she interviews like some new age person. It's like, "Oh, that's it's just like whatever, like whoever she's talking to, like
it's like, oh, you're a Nazi. That's great. You know, I wait, no, not.
Not to that point, but
no.
Yeah.
But
god.
Anyways,
Oprah emails him. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Oprah emails him, and then he, once they want to do a Loqueesha TV show on the Oprah Winfrey Network or something, and and he has to say no because he doesn't, he can't be on TV and doesn't think Renee's right to do the show, and then she gets all pissed, and so does, and kind of the producer. What's the producer guy's name, anyways? Forgot.
Unfortunately, I don't know.
Mason.
I only know a few characters' names. Joe and Rachel are the only ones I really memorized.
Yeah, Mason is the producer. So Renee and Mason kind of want, they want money, so they realize that we're going to make a lot of money if we're on Oprah's network. And
right.
So Renee, especially, I mean, Mason kind of understands it after Joe talks to him about it and says, we can't do that because, kind of end up exposing things. And
right.
But Renee comes in and she's got a big plan. Oh yeah, by the way, I just wanted to emphasize the fact that when he's himself talking to Loqueesha, I was trying to remember what it reminded me of when he's like these split personalities. In Lord of the Rings when Gollum talks to Schmeagol.
Oh yeah.
Like when he looks in the water and he's talking to his old self, and stuff, and he's having these arguments. Like that's what it reminded me of. So yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe he was trying to be funny by making a Lord of the Rings book or something.
I do not think so. I don't think
he's not smart enough. Yeah.
So Renee basically comes up with this idea that she's like, gonna like expose things if he doesn't do the Oprah show thing, and says, from now on it's gonna be 70-30, and then he's like, okay. He's like, I can't give you 30%. And it's like, well, you're not going to. You're going to give me 70, you 30. Right. You know? And then the greatest line in the history of film. He says, "What are you, blackmailing me?" And she says, God. "No, I'm black femaling you."
Oh my god, dude! Oh, I cringed. I almost my muscles almost tensed up and gave me like a injury. Like
I have so much sympathy and pain for the woman that played Renee. Like to have to say that line.
I know. Hopefully they probably didn't pay her much money for this movie either. But
I don't know what the budget of the movie was, so I'm trying to find it.
Probably not much, probably not a lot, but yeah, and it's just like, and so then it goes again too with the stereotype of like, oh, she doesn't know what the correct words means, and so she thought he meant black male, as in that he was talking about like a man, and so she's like, no, I'm like femaling you.
No, I think it was more her just trying to be funny.
Okay,
yeah, I hope.
I don't understand, dude, why anyone thought this was a good idea to make. Plus, too, it's like, again, she doesn't sound anything like Loqueesha. That was never gonna be exposed at any point. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I can't find the budget for this movie. I really wish I knew how much they paid to make this movie to try to figure out what they may have paid, the actors. So he goes on the air later on after this happens, after he has a sit down with his kid, who gives him this advice he tells him a stupid story about how he tried to make friends at school and told this kid that he liked tuna sandwiches even though he doesn't like tuna.
Yeah.
And the kid brought him a tuna sandwich and he ate the sandwich and then threw it up, and now the kid doesn't like him, and his message was that you just got to be yourself.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Plus, too, it's like maybe he threw it up because he was sick.
I bet you when they were writing that, they thought this was like the best story ever.
Oh yeah, they're like, this proverb really kicks ass, bro. Like
this is gonna like put tears on people's eyes and stuff.
Yeah, man. Like tuna tears, man. Like we're gonna go all out. It's like Tuna Tears. That sounds like a good song title.
It's like a band. They just play songs. They just play sad songs about the sea. It's
yeah. That's their album, Sad Songs About the Sea. There you go. There you go.
Yes.
They're like a punk folk punk band from like Boston.
So so then he decides after that I just got to be myself, and so he goes on the air and he as Loqueesha and basically says, this is my last episode, I'm done at the end of the episode. And so of course that pisses off Renee.
Yep.
And then she decides that she's gonna do the show now herself, and without Mason as well, because he doesn't want to be, basically she fires him because he thinks it's a stupid idea. And so she goes in and does the show herself and negotiates for more money and stuff. And when she comes back and she's totally like just mean to people.
Yeah.
Like Joe as Loqueesha was like not just, he was supposedly like understanding to people, even though he almost killed a woman. But
Yep.
But I guess he was straightforward and no nonsense and blunt, but not, mean, because there's a difference. A lot of people confuse the two though, so. But,
yeah, exactly.
And so she's just, basically telling people, you're fucking stupid, don't do that or whatever, so it's not really great advice. And people stop listening, the ratings start to go down, and then she's starting to realize that, and she decides that she's going to take a break and go to some tropical island or something. Yeah, and take a couple of weeks off. The Ken and Bob at the radio station decide that that's what needs to be done. And she goes to him and is like, I can't do it. I don't know how to do. You got to come back and stuff like that, and trying to renegotiate things. And he decides to just leave, and then he goes to tell Ken and Bob, like, I'm Loqueesha. So
yeah,
what's like the most dramatic scene in film history.
Maybe it gave me tuna tears streaming down my face.
Tuna tears.
Such a weird phrase. Oh my god! And so what? They basically give him a choice, like, hey, we kind of want you anyway. You got great ratings, and he's like, okay, like, well. So he compromises, like, all right, well, how about this? We'll let the audience decide what they want me to do. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and he gives them, like, he comes clean about what was going on, and he gives the audience 3 choices, basically. I can continue the show as Loqueesha, but it's not really a black woman. I can do the Joe show where I give my advice as Joe, or I can just get off the air. So, yeah. And then here's where I don't like Rachel anymore.
Okay.
After this comes out, she comes and confronts him about the whole thing where he gave advice to her to basically get with her and stuff. Yeah. And then this whole scene is like them fighting with each other and everything. And then he says, well, I love you. And she's like, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So he has there's no character development. There's no like comeuppance for the character. Like, no. He gets the girl. It's like,
well, why does that make Rachel bad though?
What it makes Rachel bad is that she's stupid enough to be with this racist asshole.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
He doesn't know how to women characters, because there would have been more conflict in this situation than that. And I don't think any sane woman after all this going on would still love Joe, so it makes the character not really a redeemable character in my eyes. So,
well, she's not sane because they writers kind of like manic and stuff, like even before that, like when he came for drinks, she like dragged him in the house and like kissed him like immediately, like.
And that's why I'm saying I don't think she's a great character at all. So
the way she's written is just horrible, like you said. Like, it's not, because again, it's also the mental illness stuff too. It's like, oh, she's clearly got some issues, so like let's exploit that so we can fuck her. It's like, what the hell? Like,
so then we wake up the next morning assuming that they fucked the night before because she's in bed with him, and
yeah, probably, yeah.
And the radio station calls and says that 20% of people said that they didn't want him on air anymore. Mm-hmm. And then 40% of the people said they wanted him to be Loqueesha. So that meant that it was a tie, that there was 40 other percent of people that wanted him to be Joe. So he decides to continue the show where he's basically being Joe and Loqueesha, I think.
I guess that was the end was meant to imply that.
Yeah.
I guess, and That's the movie. That's
I forgot another. There's another scene where when the kid is giving advice. By the way, I forgot this one. I just had in my notes here that his kid says that he loves him more, basically because he has more money.
Well, he kind of, but then I don't know. He kind of changed after that. Like,
yeah, but it's like the kid doesn't even really redeemable in my opinion. But
he's not either. He's
bad, right? It's bad writing all over. And and the main message of the movie. Okay, so when I was in high school, I came up with this motto that me and my friends would always say, and I'd write it on things, and everybody would quote me of this. I mean, it was nothing great because I was like 17 or whatever, coming up with this thing, and it was always be different, be yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message they're trying to get across in this movie. But I've come up with the idea that there are certain times where being yourself is not the best thing to be.
Yes.
And basically that's when you're the writer of this movie.
Maybe don't
write a racist movie with ableism and bad looks and mental health issues and transphobia and homophobia and every other phobia in the world. Yeah. It's
or whatever. Oh my God, dude. And another thing too, I wanted to mention, it's not really about the movie in particular, but I've noticed something over the past, I don't know, I'd say past maybe even 10 years at this point, where there's a lot of stories, movies, and commercials, etc., where it's interracial relationship, but like 90% of the time, the guy is white and a woman's black, so it's like almost kind of like it's like still taboo, I guess, for the black guy for the guy to be black and the woman to be white, because it's like, oh, we're totally cool with interracial as long as the guy's white and the woman's black,
Well, I will tell you, bringing back Dawson's Creek, that Joey's sister on there who was white was with a black man. So.
Oh, okay. That's true. No, you're right. Yeah, that's true.
On there, yeah. The actor who played him sadly passed away last year. So, he was actually paralyzed in a car accident years ago and was doing really well for himself. And I can't remember exactly how he died, but yeah. Anyways,
yeah.
So here's a little bit from Wikipedia here about this movie that I just wanted to get to before we wrap up the show. So the film's trailer was released on YouTube in May 11th of 2019, prompting a backlash on social media for the film's overt racism, sexism, stereotyping, and cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
In response, Seville tweeted a photograph of himself with Marlon Wayans. I guess they had met at one point, referencing the latter's film White Chicks.
No, that's not the same. Okay.
Exactly. And then Wayans said in return that he hated when people tag me in their bullshit. It's annoying as fuck.
Yeah, it's like, you're not even part of the conversation, dude. Like, it's just like...
And
imagine if...
So Dwayne Perkins, who played Mason in the movie, one of the black actors in the film, he defended the film, saying this is a comedy about a guy who does the wrong thing for the right reasons, and the movie really gets into all of it more than the trailer does.
No, it doesn't.
He says, I think you have to withhold judgment until you see the movie. But again, making a mockery wasn't my intention.
Okay, I did see the movie. And not the trailer, just the movie itself. And I have to tell you, it's worse than Soul Man. Because at least Soul Man, there was an understanding. Granted, he got everything he wanted at the end. So like, if there was no comeuppance from him either. But
whether it was done well or not, at least the character in that movie lived his life as a black man for a short time. You know, he didn't do anything stereotypical, but he got to see what racism can do to a person. This guy never did.
No.
There was no lesson that he learned, period, except for, I got to be myself. That's not that's not the lesson you should be learning from doing a minstrel show without makeup. You know, it's like...
Exactly, man.
So I guess there was attempted submissions to film festivals. Promotional material for Loqueesha stated that the film was an official selection at the San Luis Obispo International Film Festival. A February 19th press release for the festival listed Loqueesha in the festival lineup, but they later tweeted that the film was never selected, screened, or given an award at our festival. The film was originally submitted to the George Sidney Independent Film Competition, but was rejected. Seville, a resident of Carmel, then submitted it to the Central Coast Filmmakers Showcase, which is open to residents of Monterey and San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties. After Loqueesha was accepted in this category and the festival guides had been permitted, the film was pulled by its producers before the screening. I'm assuming because he didn't live in any of those cities.
Yeah.
The festival apologized that the film did not receive an adequate vetting process and committed to installing appropriate measures to see that this unfortunate circumstance does not occur in the future. So maybe they did reject it for the blatant racism in the movie. Rotten Tomatoes, this film has a 0% rating.
Wow.
That's really hard to get that low of a rating. There's very few 0%, ratings. There are only 40 films with more than 20 reviews have received that rating.
Wow.
So yeah.
So that's his great accomplishment. That's his
legacy.
And I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm sure in the future, but I think this is the worst film we've ever reviewed for this show.
I think it's really close. Yeah, I really do. I mean, worse as far as message. Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe production quality. I mean, the production quality was pretty bad, but it wasn't like, I mean, I've made worse production quality, so I can't really be critical of that. But I'm just saying that, it didn't look great, but it didn't look like horrible either. So, except for the bad special effects.
Yep.
So, any other thoughts here on this before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I mean, it's not about this, but so I got an email the other day. Someone that we both knew. Last time I heard, he was sleeping in the ditch, and I haven't heard anything from him. We're talking about 6 years at this point.
Yeah.
He sent me a file, and it was an audio file, and it like made my ears bleed a little bit. It's like literally, like I started having like visions and shit. And I think, anyway, so I'm gonna play you part of the audio file and see what you think about that.
Okay, so tell us who that was.
So that's an old friend of ours, well, like acquaintance of ours, named Tony Generous. We used to talk to him quite a bit back in like 2019 for a few months. Then he kind of just...
Yeah, we talked to him. We talked to him a lot on a podcast we no longer do called Super Story Podcast. Yeah, he was a good guy. I've been worried about him for a long time because I haven't heard from him in a while. I know you were a little closer to him than I was, but I was worried about the guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was close to him because he brainwashed me into a cult. But it wasn't not so much brainwash. It was more of like a frequency pattern. So it turns out that Tony Generous is actually a spiritual being that is not human, but takes on a human form and has the ability, I guess, to convince people that he is so. He is a cousin of, or he claims to be a cousin of Tom Petty, which step cousin. We're not even sure that's true.
Is he as convincing at fooling people as Joe was convincing people that he was Loqueesha?
A little bit more, actually. And and so he would send me these songs, and like it would make my computer glitch. I thought he had a virus at one point, but it said my computer said no, it's fine. So I think it had something to do with the frequency patterns of his mind was causing my computer to glitch.
My computer had chlamydia once.
Yeah.
My computer had chlamydia once. It was weird.
That's sad. Yeah. And yeah, he would send me all these emails with these weird songs. Like he wanted to do like car wash jingles, I guess, for some reason. And he wanted to call himself Tony Generous because, he wanted to be like the opposite of Tom Petty. Petty,
yeah.
You're being petty, I guess, and generous, kind of the opposite. So he called himself Tony Generous. He claimed that he would go around the country, playing small gigs like at bowling alleys, family get-togethers in the parks. So that was more of him just showing up with his guitar and just playing.
I was going to say, I don't think anybody ever invited him to these events. I think
it wasn't really. It wasn't so much a gig as just showing up places with his guitar and then playing. And last time I checked, he said he was sleeping in the ditch, and he was gonna use leaves as blankets, and then that was it. And then
I DJ weddings on the side sometimes, and the last time I saw Tony, he showed up at one of these weddings. I forgot to tell you about this, but he asked for my microphone and wanted to play a song, and we had to give the money back to the bride and groom after that.
He has problems, yes, and but that's what happens when you're not a human and you're trying to live as a human. You're trying to figure out the rules. When you're advanced spiritual being as Tony, you don't abide by those same rules in the realm that he comes from. And I just realized I got out of Tony's cult 6 years ago, but now that I'm talking to him, I believe everything he says. Tony Generous is a spiritual being from the planet Neptune.
Sesame.
And I follow every what?
Come back to me.
What?
Come back to me.
Okay. Sorry.
Don't fall into the trance.
He's got this pole on me. He's got this pole on me. I'm sorry. Yeah.
What I recommend is buying all of the antivirus software you can, and don't install it on your computer. Just buy it, and
okay,
and that'll help take care of things.
Oh, okay. I'll try that. Yeah.
And I know this place where you can buy it really good, really cheap, Yeah, you just got to make all of the checks out to Michael E. Cullen II. It's just
yeah.
I mean, it's fine, Sounds like my name, but it
reminds me of that
top
episode.
I was gonna say the top quality, software called Michael E. Cullen II software. That's why you got to make the checks out to that. Yeah.
It reminds me of, what's it?
I said, what's it remind you of?
Of that episode of 30 Rock where he's like, make out the check to City All Saints Hospital. That's just
Ash.
The Nathan Lane played the brother of what's his
Alec
name?
Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin character.
Jack
He's like,
Donaghy.
I'm doing this charity. Yeah, Jack Donaghy. He's like, I'm doing this charity for the church. It's the City All Saints Hospital. Like,
anyways, anything else you want to say about the movie or Tony or anything before we wrap things up here?
I'll let you know about Tony. I have a bad feeling he's gonna start emailing me a lot again, so we'll see. But
maybe we'll talk more about Tony next week on the next episode. Hopefully, we'll be able to either get him out of our lives so he doesn't bother us, or get him the help he needs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
the spiritual and cyber help he needs or whatever.
Unlike us, we don't make fun of disabled people. We try to help them, so.
Yes. So, folks, if you really feel bad, like if you watch Loqueesha and you feel bad about yourself, check out the charities we have in our show notes and donate to one of them.
Out the City All Saints Hospital. No, I'm kidding.
No. We have legitimate ones, not fake ones.
Yeah, I know.
In our show notes that I list every week. Check those out. There is supposedly I don't know by the time this airs, a ceasefire in Gaza and Palestine right now, but in Israel, but which I call Palestine because it's not really Israel. They supposedly have a ceasefire, but people there have lost everything. These displaced people, it doesn't matter, what you think, but these kids do not deserve to starve to death. We've got links in the show notes to help them out. So, that might be a good one to check out and help out. That, just helps out humanity and can cleanse your soul a little, I guess, from watching Loqueesha. So anyways, do that. Check out all2real2.com for all of our links to our social media. We're everywhere. We're Blue Sky. We're not on X because fuck Elon, and Facebook and all that stuff. I mean, still fuck Zuckerberg. But fuck the oligarchy. Just remember that I love you. Sesame loves you. Free Palestine. Trans lives are human lives. Black lives matter, except for when they're fake white men pretending to be black women. I mean, his life still matters, but
does it doesn't matter.
I'm somebody that their life doesn't matter like he does on the radio to a woman jumping off of a bridge. But but just and like I said, free Palestine. And until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.